when I was doing videos back in Vermont, I'd sometimes would complain about like the refrigerator kicking on, and it would be tough to be doing videos. But then I sit 6 feet away from a furnace that kicks on occasionally, and I realized just how nice it was to have a refrigerator that kicked on every once in a while that was just nice and quiet. So anyway, welcome back to the channel, everybody. Thanks for stopping by. Vermont Scale Customs. I have spent a fair amount of time on this thing in the last 24 hours, getting it to this point where it is at right now. It underwent a major update once upon a time, and by once upon a team, it was probably about two and a half years or so ago. I built this truck on this chassis, original factory rails. It had different links when it was built originally, and was set up this way, and I thought it was the best. The truck has been a lot of places. It's done a lot of video. You can go ahead and check out the playlist that this video is going to be a part of. It's covered probably, I would almost say, as much ground as my TF2. This truck has been around. It's definitely done some stuff. It's one of my oldest SCX24s, but it basically became this thing when I found this body, which is, oh, almost pulled the phone. Holy shit. Well, it's one of these Lindberg big 120 scale bodies, and that was one of the originals too. So when I got this, they were still available for like $40 or $50 or something like that. But then eventually, a month or two after I got this thing, they started showing up on eBay for about $250. So somebody out there trying to retire off of the fact that these all of a sudden turned into a little cult classic item for some remote control cars. So it sat at one point in time fairly high up, almost ridiculously high up, and it had a lot of exposed chassis with a bump skid, and I decided to take the OGRC carbon frame LCG chassis and set it up with the flat skid along with, let's see, what am I running for links here? I've got 58.5s on the bottom along with 51s on the top for the rears, and I've got 50s on the bottom and 39s for the top, and nice and short. I think it clocks in. It's basically factory wheelbase, and it is absolutely perfect for this 120. I couldn't be more pleased with how everything came together with this. It just absolutely, proportion wise and everything, the way it runs now, it's an entirely different truck. So let me crack open the hood and see what's going on here. So once upon a time, shoe glue, washer, magnets right here, and that works out great. So the way I set this up in here to handle this was I used the tabs, the pull tabs from the SCX24 pins. Took the rubber off of there, and this OGRC chassis has slotted holes right here, which these things happen to fit just right through on both sides. Now you can see that I have a screw screwed in on both sides. Now that catches the inner fender, where the inner fender rests on the hood of those screws, and then these things just pop in right through those tiny little grooves in what are the shock towers, and those keep everything nice and firmly, neatly in place. Now I can't lift this all the way up because I have the LEDs all plugged in and stuff like that, but wires are kind of limiting here. But this got the Injora purple. It was running the RGT motor from way back when, I'm not sure. It's running a single speed gearbox, metal drive shafts through and through, and original first generation electronics in this, not the second generation stuff, just the first. My oldest set of Trial shocks that have been around for probably 3 years at least, maybe more. Injora wheels, Proline tires with foams, the soft foams, everything is vented. Vented at the rim itself, not the tire. What else? And these are great tires too. Once I got these tires, it kind of inspired wanting to kind of change the look on this, because I had it originally set it up with IROC Super Swappers, and it was a great truck and it's done a lot of good stuff, but I kind of felt like it didn't really look the part. And I've had this OGRC chassis sitting around ever since I built up a couple things, and then that OGRC chassis has been just kind of sitting doing nothing ever since I got the little guy Racing Parts LCG comp rig, which I absolutely love. Now, seeing that LCG comp rig in action and seeing what it was capable of doing, and kind of thinking in terms of what to do with that OGRC chassis, it hit me a couple days ago. Hey, wait a second. Let's see if I can figure out a way to make all of this work out and kind of get finally the look that I'm after for this thing, and then get it onto a really capable chassis. So as far as how I did the back and kept the hinge, this is the C10 metal hinge, which came with like a kit, a full SCX24 kit from forever ago. And I laid it flat in between the shock towers of the chassis. So that brought it down to what I would consider to be like optimal ride height for this. And anyway, pointed that out the back, marked out where the 2 holes are going to be, and sent the 2 holes in like underneath where the tailgate's at. So you can barely see. You'd have to really be looking to see where the screws go. And so anyway, those poke through, and then I used 2 small little Injora spacers for M1.4, and that keeps the spacing just right, which kept the distance centered over the rear axle, which kind of sets everything, the pace for everything else. So up on the front, obviously some contact issues if I wouldn't have trimmed. So got a little trimming. Just did more of that with the Dremel here not long ago, a few minutes ago. So I should have no issues at this point with extreme angles and stuff. It ended up with just over 2 inches. I got my little block, and this is 2 1/4. So it's just over 2 inches, not quite a full 2 1/4. It starts to lift just a tad, but I am more than pleased with that. I've crawled with it a couple times already, and I'm just super pleased with how this thing runs. It's got just sort of like that kind of comp attitude about it now. I think really what it needs is a better servo, which could keep up. And then with a stronger servo, it kind of makes me want to run 2S in it, or excuse me, 3S. And because you can run the stronger servo on 2S, and it's not a bad choice, which I've done on a couple other vehicles, but it just seems to run a little bit snappier and a little bit better on 3S, especially with kind of running trucks like this where wheel speed are kind of like an instant demand on them. But I'm not sure I want to run anything like that on stock electronics, and I know that it's possible. I've done it plenty. But it would probably be more beneficial at some point in time to consider maybe going brushless in this. So that would be a really nice feature, nice thing to do. But I'm not really 100% concerned about doing that just at the moment. I did drop 2 lights on this, meaning I had to remove them because I haven't quite figured out exactly how I am going to get them in there just yet. And that is, let's see if I can sort of just reveal where they are. On the other version of this previously, I had 2, there's like a tiny little light bar that sat like in between the frame, and it kind of dropped down 2 amber lights right below the air dam here. And so where everything sat once the servo was right up inside of this, obviously I couldn't leave that in there. So I might try and find another way. The whole goal originally was to try and see if I could get those lights to sort of sit like directly behind where those louvers are here. And if I could get that, then it will be 110% goal achieved. This is already completely like better than I had ever anticipated that the whole project was going to turn out. But if I can get little details like that to work out, that'd be great. A note on the interior, which is here. Do you, real question, see any possibility? I realized that I could take the battery and I could put something like that in here. All said, this is probably 2 to 3 times what the battery weight would be sitting right here, right up front. It's almost just too much, really. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I think what that does is kind of pushes the motor a little bit at that point to where brushless would be required, which would kind of sort of be a major reconfiguration at that point anyway. I'm never going to get full depth of the interior anyway. This all sits all the way down to the door line. so I would not be able to get that in. I could do kind of a pseudo floor and sort of raise everything up, maybe something along those lines, and see if I can't just get like drivers and bust or something along those lines. But again, that's a whole lot of stuff to be able to try and fit in there and be able to maintain a location for the battery. I've tried maybe putting the battery on. If I was running a small battery, I could keep it on the back side here of the cab, or if I find a small enough one, and be able to put it to the underside of the hood, and everything would just be nice and self-contained up front. Power switch and everything still. This is factory electronics, so obviously that's just right square up under the hood here, so you can reach back up under there and turn all that stuff off. I dropped and broke this thing last night. I had just pulled the body off of the hinge and was doing something. I don't even remember. I think it was like trimming plastic or something like that. And I dropped it and it took a nosedive and it cracked it all behind on this side. So I did all the work that I needed to do. And right at the very end of the night, just so it could sit for the whole night, I super glued everything, got the bumper super glued back on. It's still not 100% straight and never will be again. But it's fine. It's okay. But I thought for sure the whole thing was done. But thankfully it wasn't. And it is still holding. I've crawled all day with it. At least a good, through, 3 different packs now, 3 different battery packs I've put through it, and maybe 4. And it's fine. So it's been taking a few rollovers. Even the roll bar still is very surprisingly in great shape. Knock on wood, nothing wrong with that. Even this tiny little bumper, I think just because of its flexibility and stuff like that, kind of allows it to sort of take a few hits. This back here, I think with it tucked up a little bit more, I still have some clearance issues, approach angle issues and stuff like that, but it's nothing severe. It's nothing I can't handle. And I'm not really going to be, crawling anything that crazy steep anyway. It's doing stuff that I'd never thought it would do. It's doing stuff that most of my other trucks don't do. So anyway, that's about that. Thanks much for watching. Let me know what you think about this thing. I absolutely adore this little truck. This thing is great. I've loved it since I got it. It's one of my favorite builds, and it's now even more one of my favorite builds just because I just made it that much more capable. So expect to see some running footage. I've been doing these very generically on the cell phone, so there's not a whole lot of editing involved. I pretty much just send these right to YouTube. When it comes to doing video, running video and stuff like that, obviously those will be done with the GoPro with the gimbal mount and stuff, and I can just edit those a little bit more. So I haven't been combining a lot of that stuff simply because I have problems with being able to send videos from my phone to my computer. I can send from my computer to my phone all day long, but not vice versa for some unknown reason. So at any rate, enough of my computer woes. Thanks much for watching. Stay tuned for truck videos. I will see you soon. Take it easy out there.